Stand together in the ocean.
If you wanted to, you won't be able to get your little clips in your clips.
Forget the weather, made the sand out of snow.
Oh, I see.
Sand out of snow.
Yeah, we've just been firing up the mics, getting the mics warm. We have two guys now who work for us called Mike, and we got them a jacket and like a foil blanket because they say that in here is really cold, even though we've got this candle and stuff. Welcome back to episode 98. It's the Sayin Sutton podcast. I'm on 98 episodes now. I'd like to have more guests, but it's just hard work, innit, trying to get people to your house. People don't want to come around. They say I'd never step foot in a building with you because I heard what you did last year. I heard it in the Leeds Journal, in a local newspaper around the way where I grew up. And let me be honest, it wasn't me. It was another P. Sutton. It was a Paul Sutton. Do you know what is funny, actually? When I finished high school, my dad's parents, my nan and my step-granddad called Arthur, I hadn't seen them since I was like 7 years old. And then I went visiting them because I wanted to know more about my dad and that. So I go, and when I get to the door, Arthur doesn't recognize me at first, and eventually goes, oh, I've not been recording here. Oh, Philip, come in. And then my nan sees me, and she's like, we have a nice chat. He gives me loads of old stuff from my dad, like his old passport that's been chopped. Like, no, don't use this. It's got a little stamp in there saying Cleveland, Ohio. When he lived in Cleveland, Ohio, he had his social security number in there because he was dual citizen, both UK and US, my father. He spent a while in America during his 20s. This is the Father's Day episode, very late. That's what we're doing. But no. My point of all that was that I remember when I sat with them and we're chatting and they're asking me to catch up, and they're telling me about my cousins they're doing better than me all the time. They have been doing all my life. They give me hand-me-downs, and they give me Liverpool shirts from 2 years ago, and then that's what I wear, and they go, ha, 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 and I'm like, nah, but in the future, retro will be cool. And I had a Bayern Munich football shirt. I had a Dortmund one. I had loads of cool shit. Not from them, actually. Jimmy used to get them from pub off some bloke to try and like make sure I'm not gay, I reckon. He's like, if I put him in football shirts, he'll definitely not be one of them. But I am a little bit, mate. Anyway, my point is, when we were sat there and we were catching up with my nanny and my granddaddy, step one, at one point they were like, oh, we looked in the paper for Hesker Fletcher, the school you went to that's now closed down because of that pedo teacher, and it's opened up as an Atherton Community School, whatever. They were looking and they were like, we saw that the results in there for GCSEs, and they were like, there was 2 P. Suttons though. One got all A's and one got like C's and B's and E's and stuff like that. And I went, yeah, I was the A's one, because there was a guy called Paul Sutton. Shout out Paul Sutton, and anyone who knows him. I've not seen that guy in 14 years, which is how long high school ago was. For doing so well in school and having the same first initial and surname as me, and almost the same name, Phill Sutton, Paul Sutton. People call me Paul accidentally sometimes. I'm pretty sure in an old job someone called me Paul, and then I never corrected them, and now it was Paul. But Paul Sutton, thanks for getting those good results to make my nan on maybe the second or the second to last or third to last time that she probably saw me. She's probably dead now. She was on one of those. She was Darth Vader. She was doing a cosplay for. She was really into Star Wars. No, she had one of those. The reality is it's actually devastating and tragic. She had one of those masks on, and the tank was there. And I walked in like, the last time I saw him, and then they made me cry. And I was like a grown man. I was maybe 27. So I maybe went 10 years later. I've seen them like since I was 7, 10 years at a time. And she's probably dead now. He might be still going. But I'll never see them again. So that's that story. Hello, welcome back. I just thought what I'd do is just see what comes out of me mind. What comes out of me mind was all of that then. So that was interesting. I'm here with Nicholas Cook. Nicholas Cook is back behind the camera producing the podcast. We used to do this when we started 3 years ago. No, 2017. No, it was 2018. 3 years ago, Nick. We started 3 years ago in the shed in my mum's old house in Atherton, and it was just awful. It looked terrible. And we've gotten back. We went through a green screen phase with a cool background. Before that, we had like a cool. Well, it wasn't really cool. It was like one of those things that girls who go to Thailand get, where they're like, oh, I'll get a wall hanging for when I get home, and I'll hang my crystals from it, and a dream catcher, and I'll get a lotus flower tattoo, and I'll start taking pictures of all my drinks in jars, and what else will I do? I'll yeah, you know, that kind of stuff. And I had one of those in the background. And I remember Dean Coughlin saying to me before he came on the podcast, Dean Coughlin of Liverpool Comedy and who's he the equivalent to in Damn Daniel, the podcast that he's on? He's Andy from Conan on it, right? Shout outs to Dean Coughlin, because he was like, we went for some food when he did my podcast in the break, or maybe beforehand or whatever, that's not important. And he was like, oh, you're vegetarian, vegan, whatever. He asked me, you're veggie. That's a good way to squeeze them together. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't eat meat and stuff. And then I was like, how did you know that? And he went, well, you know, I had long hair then. And that background just, oh, yeah, here's it. Like, no guy who, like, has eggs and steak for breakfast and lifts some weights for breakfast. But, you know, those ones that are like 2 bowling balls with 100 kilograms written on them, and a big stick that bends in the middle, and they wear a leotard and they have a mustache and they go eggs and steak and eggs and... You know, those guys that we all know in our lives. We know guys like that who are like, football, those guys. England guys, the guys who say England, the word England, England, you know, the country that I live in, that you probably live in if you're watching this, England, even though we can... Is it England? Is it actually England, or is it England? Because they say it, the football hooligans, they say Ingerland, like Ingerland, Ingerland. It's 3 syllables. And we live now in the city. I don't know if I digress completely from what I was on about then. We live now in the city. Oh yeah, the background. None of those guys have got that background, have they? For whatever they're doing. They don't have those up in the room. Anyway, the football. We live in the city now. Nick and I told you that on the last episode. But Nick's here now. He's moved in. And it's been fun and that. And we go out and we walk around Oxford Road and we be about. But right below us, 2 bars. Milky bars. We've got access to a life supply of Milky Bar. No, that was a dumb joke. No, it wasn't even a joke. It was just gibberish. I've not done coke before I started. I think I'm nervous to start doing it again. Below us, there are 2 bars. There are 2 bars, right? And we hear people shouting stuff all the time outside. And the thing we've heard the most at the moment, even when there's not a football game on, is just guys going, footballs, it's coming home, it's coming home. Football's coming home. Football's coming home. Football. And just people like not even in a state of chanting. It's like, it sounds like do you know when you hear like a cat dying? You're like, and it's just, and you're like, what is that? Are they fighting? Is one just, it's found a place to die? That's what they sound like, but they're doing it through their chant. Or maybe it's like what's it called? A mating call. It's just, I'm coming home. Football's coming home. That's their mating chant. And they're hoping that the girls that walk around in football shirts, which, by the way, I'd like that. I don't like football, but if a girl is wearing a football shirt and she's tied it at the belly and that, I kind of like it, mate. I'm like, that's a good look. And like when they have big, strong legs and they kick you, I like that as well. I like professional women's football players, but they objectify themselves a little bit. They go like, you want to see some belly? They do a bit of that. I wonder if, do they do that? Do they ever like crop top it? Because in other sports, ladies, like men cover the belly and just have like maybe vests on or a t-shirt. But women do the crop top. Can they do that in football? Are they allowed, Nicholas? Will you Google women's football kits crop top? What do you mean, no, you won't Google it? That's why you're here. That's why I've let you live here. Honestly, I'll keep paying the rent and all the bills if you just Google one thing. He doesn't even like the fact that I'm pretending that I pay for things when he has way more money than me and he's much more responsible. Thanks, Nick. Well, this is fun. No, so what else were we going to talk about? Right, engage me on this one, Nick. Are you playing a game? Yep. Well, will you at least try and engage me on this one a little bit, as much as you can whilst playing a game? You don't even have to talk that much, just acknowledge things and that. Me and Nick, right, first, maybe the day that we moved in here, right? Was it? Yeah, I think it...
How do I know what?
Oh, yeah. You're right. Good point. Not the day that we moved in. It could have been. But what it was is we went to Urbis. You know Urbis in Manchester? That bit where there's like a park and that, and people sit. And me and Nick, we sat there. We sat there and we chilled there. And we're looking over at, because we didn't want to sit in that place, the usual bit that we sit outside of Manchester Cathedral, which is older than the United States of America. That building is older than the United States of America. And I guarantee anyone who lives there, it's definitely older than anyone who lives there. Combined, no, not combined. Maybe babies. Maybe all the babies combined. No, that's ridiculous too. But we usually sit outside of there, but we couldn't. It was all being made into some sort of markets. But we missed the Christmas markets, thankfully, because of this goddamn lucky pandemic we've been having. Oh, it's been a lovely, lovely time we've been having. I'm really grateful for it happening. And we sat there and in the Urbis part, the bit where all the college kids and high school kids go. But also there are people who are families and there are people with their dog and there are couples. And me and Nick, a couple of fellas, flatmates at this point, sat next to each other watching just the world go by, or at least the chaos that was happening. See, that's why you've got to look at the bloody camera. The chaos that is going on within this park area with all the like college folk. And I remember commenting like, oh, that's what they were now, college people. Do you remember how you dressed in college? Like in school, you kind of dress, you don't really have much of a choice. It's kind of like what your parents dress you in, and then you occasionally are like, let me get a Linkin Park t-shirt, or you've saved up your pocket money to get a Kangol bucket hat, or you drag your auntie around shops when she's trying to buy you a birthday gift, asking for red pants, like red joggers, or red, it wasn't really joggers then, that much, red tracksuit bottoms, because you wanted to look like Eminem in the D12 Get Up video. But then my auntie got angry because she was like, there is no red pants. We've been in 8 shops. Do you mean like trousers? And I'm like, no, it needs to be. And I'm not a brat. Like, I know it sounds like I am. But I was like, I don't want you to spend the amount of money that you're going to spend on this. I value the fact that, say if you were to spend 20 quid on me for my birthday, I want to make sure I'm getting the thing I want. If we got to the red pants, and they were like the 50 quid, I'd be like, nah. But nothing cost 50 quid back then. Remember those days? Freddos were 25p. Nothing was more than 50 quid. Not a car, not a house, not another person that you couldn't buy for $49.99. And my point about all of that is love your auntie and uncle. No. What was it? I hope this is fun for everyone. I probably say that every podcast. Just watching how my mind works, the cogs turning, and the fact that you're like, whoa, his mouth hasn't stopped moving pretty much throughout this. You could chill and talk a bit slower. Yeah. I actually had to actively go, oh, look how fast you're going. Slow down. Even this, what I'm speaking at now, is like a normal speed to be speaking. It isn't slow, even though to me, right now, it feels like I'm going in slow motion. But it isn't. It's like how Colin Firth talks. I bet he doesn't talk that fast. Well, I was in the King's Speech. Yeah, I reckon he talks like that. What was my entire point about all of it, though? The red pants. Let's go back. That's it, I found it. College kids, how they dress. So you've gone through school and your mum's bought you a football kit or whatever, or like a Donné shirt, or you've got your cousin's Kappa tracksuit that you've inherited because of hand-me-downs. And when you get to college, actually, I know that college is coming. Let's go a bit further back to the way I dressed when I was a kid. There's a picture of me as a kid, and I'm wearing this like brown t-shirt and shorts combo, and it's got like a blue trim, they call it, isn't it? And it says baseball, and it says like 93 or something. And I said to Mum, like, did you buy me that? Like, is that like, did Dad buy me that because of he liked America? He was half American and liked baseball and that. And she was like, no, he got you that from a charity shop. And I was like, oh, right. Were we like proper poor? And she was like, no, I used to hand him money and go, he needs more clothes. Look, he doesn't fit in those ones. I'm working today all day. And then I'm going to school, like college at night college, night school. She called it night school. And I used to be like, but why are you going to school? It's dark. Don't leave me with him. And no, I didn't feel like that about him. But anyway, she would be doing that, and then she'd give him some money and go and get him some clothes. He really needs them. So he'd be like, right, lad, come on, let's go. And I'd be like, all right, which shop are we going to? He'd be like, oh, don't worry, it's a good one. It's got lots of flat caps in there. Oh yeah, there's lots of flat caps. There's lots of shirts in there and boots. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, the King's Arms? I've never heard of this shop before. And he was like, they sell beer and spirits and whiskey. And we went inside, and then he'd sit me with all his pals, and I'd be sat there, and then he'd play darts, and then I'd get up too close to the dartboard because I want, Dad, and he'd go, sit down, you're going to get blinded by a dart. And he'd say that to me, and then I'd have to sit there quietly. And then he'd be like, do you want another orange juice? And I go, well, I kind of wanted to go get some clothes because my shoes are really hurting because my feet are bulging out of them. Can we go and get me more shoes? And then he was like, 7 more pints. All right, just 7 more pints. That's all. So then eventually you have 7 more pints. And then I'd be like, Dad, I'm really hungry. And he'd be like, I need to soak up all this alcohol before I drive. So then we'd go to McDonald's, and he'd act like McDonald's was like he's taking me to Disneyland. He'd be like, don't say I don't treat you. I bring you to McDonald's almost every time I pick you up, lad, don't I? One day we'll go to the football stadiums. One day I'll take you to this place. I'll show you how to weld, because he used to weld. I'll show you how to weld. I'll find a pistol somewhere and we'll shoot cans off the top of your nan's head. All right? He used to promise me these things, but he just took me to the pub. And then he'd be like, on the way back, he'd be like all drunk, and he'd go, oh, shit. I didn't get him any clothes, so he'd just pull up at a charity shop, and then he'd go in there and he'd go, they're too big for you, so they'll last long enough that your mum won't complain at me. And then he would get me charity shop clothes for like 50p, and the other £19.50 that my mum gave him all went on beer and McDonald's. And that's why I dressed so cool as a kid, because I got all this cool charity shop stuff. So thanks, Dad. That's my point. And anyway, so back to throughout school, when my daddy died, then after that, my mum starts actually being able to pay for my clothes and that. I remember I asked for a suit for Christmas one time. I was really wanting a father figure, and my stepdad came along and talked about, he wore suits sometimes, and talked about, back in my day, in the 50s, we used to wear suits and put pomade in our hair, and we used to be called, this is what you used to be called. They'd be like, we were teddy boys back then. They were called teddy boys. Like, do you know, there's like, what's the 60s? There's hippies and shit. But what else was there? What are Grease Lightning? What are they? Are they them? No, they're not, are they? But they had, like different decades had different like types of people, like skinheads and that in the 80s. I know that's not a great example, but they were called teddy boys. And he used to say it proudly because he just came from that and thought it was cool. And he'd talk about suits and stuff. So I was like, I get a suit? Should I get a suit? Will you treat me nicely then? So I got a suit. And Adam Anwar said when he saw the picture, he said, the first picture I'm like wearing a blazer. No. The first picture I'm wearing a Wigan rugby shirt. And he's like, first picture rugby, second picture snooker, because I had a waistcoat. And I did look like a little snooker player. I reckon I could even just Photoshop a Phill cue in there and be like, I could have convinced people that I was like a superstar snooker player. A superstar snooker player back in the day. A 7-year-old superstar snooker extraordinaire. I had to liven it up a bit. All right, I was talking about snooker, so I farted into the mic. Anyone who is a female who's watching, goodbye. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching. Sometimes if you're nervous and you have a fart brewing, you feel like there's a good opportunity to do it into a mic. And also, I've watched Too Much Tuesdays with Stories with Matt Norman and Joe List, and they do it, and my instant reaction was like I'm hanging out with them, and it was to fart into the mic because they might laugh. But they're not here. They don't know me. I'm insane. Anyway, we're looking at these kids, right? No, remember college. Remember college, right? When you would, you dress like you just got out of school. You're wearing your school uniform around your friends and stuff, and around the people. Well, your friends, you can kind of dress how you want, but because they're your friends anyway, and even if you do something dumb or you look stupid, they'll take the piss out of you, but they're still your pal. But at school, they regiment you, and I kind of think it's a good idea to be like, let's all make them look the same, because then they can't. There's only an extent they can bully each other on their appearance for it, and that's all it really is. It's like, oh, did you have Rockfords in school instead of Rockports? And I was like, yeah. I told my mum, I was like, I want Rockports, but if you can't get them, don't, under any circumstances, get me Rockfords, because I won't wear them. And she was like, I'll get them, don't worry. And I was like, which ones? And she's like, I'll get them, yeah. And I'm like, Rockports. She's like, yes, the rock ones. And I'm like, which ones? Which ones are you going to get me? And she was like, are they expensive, these? And I went, well, maybe, but... And she's like, what about the Rockfords one? And I'm like, don't get them, even if they're cheap. And she's like, but if they're cheap, I'm like, don't get them. I might as well go in wearing Barbies on my feet. Like, I might as well go in wearing, like, do you know the pink cars that Barbies came in as shoes? Because back then, homophobia was rife. And they wouldn't have accepted that. In fact, I spat everywhere then. In fact, when I wore that suit, I got it for Christmas, when no non-uniform day, or no clothes day, as everyone used to call it, when that day came up, right, I'll reference this camera for a moment. When that day came up, all right, let me tell you, people who are still here, even though I farted, let me tell you what happened. My mum was like, why don't you go in your suit? Go in your suit. Oh, you look so smart. So I go in, and all the teachers say I look so smart and handsome. But all the kids say I look like a ballerina. They were like, oh, suit. Oh, he's got his suit on. And I remember as we were leaving school at the end of the day, everyone's wearing like cool shit or whatever. And then they were dancing around, pirouetting around the playground, going, I'm wearing a suit. I'm wearing a suit. And they're like, suit boy, tie. Like that. And they were dancing around like ballerinas. And that's apparently what I was for wearing a suit. I bet some of their fathers didn't wear suits. I bet they were construction workers. And they're cunts. No. Just call all construction workers cunts. But let's be honest. The people who are taking the piss out of me probably had fathers in construction. And probably the reason they were taking the piss and not giving a shit about school is because eventually they knew that they would go into their father's business as a construction worker and get 50 G's a year, mate. Straight out of school. But the sacrifice that comes with that is... one day, someone will glue your hard hat to your head, and maybe a cinder block will crush your foot. So, making all that money and taking the piss out of me for my suit, even though I have no reason to wear a suit these days. Anyway, in college, you get into college and you're like, right, I can finally wear what I want to wear. So you go, all right, what are all my influences? I remember doing this one first. I went with like, I'll get band t-shirts. So I had an Oasis t-shirt. I had an Arctic Monkeys t-shirt. I probably had some other t-shirts, right? I probably had a film t-shirt. I probably had like fucking Fight Club t-shirt or something. So I had that, and I probably had a shirt that was like, this is my best shirt. And whenever I go out, I always wear this shirt. That's what college kids do when they're 17 trying to get into a place. They wear the best shirt, and it looks like just what the mum got them from Matalan. And they wear jeans that are like flurry. Remember them? Before, I don't know when, there was the baggy phase where in the 90s, it went like, we don't like flares anymore. And in the 80s, I don't know what happened then. But then in the 90s, it was like, everything must be low. Your ass must always be showing, and it all must be ruffled around your feet. And to the point where, remember when you'd have jeans, this would never happen anymore. When you had jeans and the whole back of the jean, on the back of your foot, would be ripped off because you'd just be standing on it all the time in your skate shoes or whatever you've got, and you would eventually just rub it all away. You remember that? People who might be around 30, and the point of that was, and I would wear that kind of stuff. I remember one time going, hey, Mum, I want to dress, take me to I need more clothes. All right, she's like, I want to get more clothes. And I go, all right, well, I know where to go. You got to like this. So we go, and I start getting Fred Perry t-shirts and polo shirts and like a Ben Sherman jacket, like a bomber jacket type thing. She was like, oh, okay. And I just wanted to be Mike Skinner from the streets. Has it come to this? Greg's original boyfriend material. You're listening to the geeks. I'm in your cereal. Remember that one? Fry your rice, mate. I know it's hard to take, but a shrimp's not going to do it by himself. That's not why it's called shrimp fried rice. All the classics. I'm not going to try and do any more. I remember looking at the streets and that. But my point is, you're figuring it out. And if anyone looks back at themselves around 17, 18, even 19, you start figuring it out in your early 20s. Around that age, you're like, what the fuck was I wearing? And a lot of it, when we were younger, everyone had plugs that were different colours. A certain type of people had plugs and stuff, and everyone had fringes and shit like that. And then there was also the people who had the Top Man shirts that were like, it was like a V-neck but had buttons, and then the trim of it would be like red, yellow, green, blue, and then one sleeve would be green and one sleeve would be like in the like luminous yellow. It was just a weird look that everyone had, and everyone used to have like white belts, and it was around the time that people wore those glasses from the Kanye West video with the like blinds, Venetian sunglasses they call them, I think. Can shades they call them. That was a bad joke. So that's why you're here, though. It's for all the terrible jokes. We are looking at these kids on Urbis, and I was thinking, that's how they dress now. They have marble. They have marble shirts on. Shirts made of marble. That's amazing. They've got shirts with Miss Marple's face on it, because that's ironic. Because they don't know who it is, and that's why it's funny. No, they have Marvel shirts on, like T-shirts with Mr. Fantastic. Is that one? Mr. Fantastic, is he one? Captain Elastic. All right, Iron Man. They have Iron Man on there. I was trying to think of an obscure one, and I completely got it wrong. They have like Iron Man, or the Hulk, or Captain America, Thor. They have all those on them, and they're just dressed very odd. They've got the chavier ones are wearing like joggers that have way too many zips and little compartments on them. And they're all at angles. Like, the really loud joggers that they're wearing. And all these kids are there, and they're listening to different songs and that I recognise from my youth, like Teenage Dirtbag, and when it drops, I'm just a teen, and everyone's singing. I was like, they were drumming it in guitar. One guy did the lame, like, I'm gonna just put the mic down to do this. Do you know the like the drum into the and it changes instruments. At first he's drumming, and then it turns into a guitar, and then he's like got the mic in his hand and he's singing it, and then he's suddenly playing the piano. Even there's not a piano in the song. There isn't a piano in the song, but he put one in there. And also the worst part of it is that not only does he look awkward and lame doing it, he has no rhythm or anything, and he's probably not doing it in time, but he's also self-conscious, and that's when someone looks really lame. Like, if you're going to be a weirdo, like Pete, not long ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, we walked out of my flat round here, and we go past Sainsbury's, and it's a busy road, lots of people walking, and he's like, no, we go past the sign, and I touch the sign. He jumps up to it and touches it, and I went, I can probably just touch that because I'm dead tall, mate. So I touch it, and then we go to the Sainsbury's on it. Do you reckon you can get that? And I was like, I'm not even trying it, mate, because also I would be embarrassed. The fact that I'm jumping to touch a sign when I'm 30. Secondly, the fact that I would miss it, probably. But Pete didn't care. He confidently had about 3 or 4 goals, taking run-ups as if he's going to take your marks, get set. He passed me a starter pistol and had me shoot the starter pistol. And the police came and everything, but he did touch the Sainsbury's. No, I don't think he did, actually. But anyway, my point is, if you've got to do something that is a bit vulnerable and in front of people, especially this kid doing the air drumming to Teenage Dirtbag, all in wrong timing. He's doing it and he's like checking that people think he looks cool or whatever. That's not confident. If you're going to be a weirdo like Pete and you're going to wear like a hat like this, but there's no peak. There's no peak at all, but there's this part. He has one of those, and it is okay with me saying that, I bet, because he's not watching this. He's going to comment on it, but not about the fact that I said that. Just a courtesy comment. You know what I mean? Thanks, Pete. Anyway, so there was that kid, and I'm looking at them all, I'm observing what they're like, and then I'm looking at the nerdier ones, and then some chavvy guys from over, that's still what I say, is that the term still? Roadmen they were. Ute! They were Ute, and they came over, and this one Ute, he gets in, the other guy, maybe a bit older, and he gets in his face, he's going, listen, bro, listen. I'm giving him an accent, not to identify where this fellow is from. He's English, but I'm not giving you what his ethnicity is with my accent. He's saying, listen, bro, and he's saying that, right, and he's in his face, and then we can't really hear what's going on, we're like, oh, it's kicking off here. And then, as he goes towards him, the Ute, as he goes towards this, what seems like a nerdy guy to me, at first I saw him differently to after the events occurred. I saw him differently after that. Anyway, back to the events that are occurring. As he's making his way towards the guy, and this guy, Ute man, all the other guys, his friends, they're just over there, just sitting and just watching this all happen, calm as eggs that aren't being cooked, just calm. And he's there, and then he walks over, and all this is occurring. He's shouting in the guy's face, and all nerds friends, all Marvel wearing t-shirt guys, fedora, wolf shirts guys, you know, wolf guys where they get the shirts and it's a wolf barking at a moon and it's a witch in the background or something, all wristbands that they've had for about 5 years on from all the different festivals they've been to, and long greasy hair down to the back. Those guys, they all move out the way as Ute makes his beeline for geeky guy. Who does he look like? He kind of looks like, at first I'm seeing him, he kind of looks like Louis Theroux when he's 18. Would you agree? Did
he not look like Stephen Hawking before he was like in a wheelchair?
Exactly that. He looked like Stephen Hawking before he was in his wheelchair, right? Pre-wheelchair Stephen Hawking. Pre-death, pre-quantum physics, pre-wheelchair Stephen Hawking. That's what he looked like. And then the ute, I'm like, me and Nick look at each other, it's going to kick off here. And there was no like push. There was just immediate bang, 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 popping him in the face. And we were like, oh shit. And everyone who's watching just kind of sits up a bit like, oh, what's going to happen? And I remember thinking, okay, let's see what happens. Maybe his friends are going to run over and grab him, or maybe the guy will give him a few pops and he'll go down and then he'll walk away. So he's bang, 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 and we're all sitting up in our seats, whether or not that's the grass, whether that's a step. We're all sitting up on the edge of them and we're going, what the fuck's going on here? Bang, 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 kicking and shit. And the guy's trying to defend himself for maybe 3 or 4 seconds, and then the next 5, 6 seconds, he's being pummeled. He drops to the ground fairly quick. 8 seconds, 9 seconds perhaps. Let me give you the specific timestamps. 9 seconds it took this guy to drop. Ding, 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 he's down. But no. UFC, this guy's been watching too much UFC. And he starts hammer fisting the guy on the floor, and I was like, whoa! And I jumped up and I went, yo! Like that. And then he kicked him in the head, and I could see his head just on the floor, just getting fucking, and his fur's flopping about, and his glasses, his Stephen Hawking glasses are moving around. He's getting closer and closer to being in a wheelchair too. He's almost fully Stephen Hawking without the smarts to not get himself in this situation. Well, we didn't know what the situation was. We were like, whoa! This guy's come over. Is he looking at him wrong? What's going on here? Like, did he look over for a second? He's going, listen, pal, you look at me and I'll batter you. That's mad that happens. Are you looking at me in the face? I'll batter you. Excuse me, why are you looking at me? Do you want physical violence for looking at me? I mean, I get if you're looking at someone like this, but I reckon he wasn't looking at. Anyway, often those kind of fights, what you're looking at me for, aren't like, mate, you've been staring at me for like 10 minutes and you're looking at me weird and then it escalates to a fight. It's not usually that. It's like, did you glance at me for a moment? Because there's a guy in high school. Should I say who this guy is? To be safe, no. But anyway, one time, a guy I went to primary school with who was a hard guy in primary school. I'm walking and I'm kind of friends with this guy. Even though one time we were in the field somewhere and he went, can I just punch you in the face? And I went, no. And then he just punched me in the face. It just out of nowhere. We've been having a nice day. And he was like, I kind of just want to. That's what it was. Anyone watching now is probably getting the same feeling. Like, I kind of just want to punch. We have been kind of having a nice day, but I just want to punch him in the face. And he was confident enough to just be like, I like fighting and stuff. And I'm quite violent and like buzz off fights and stuff. So this meek beta guy in this situation, and most situations, I'm going to ask him if I can punch him in the face, just as a kind of courtesy warning, because I am going to punch him in the face because he's got a punchable face. And he did that. But anyway, this same kid, we're in the corridor in school, and he points over to this guy who's in the year below us, and he goes, that guy's fucking well hard. And I was like, all right. And he's like, yeah, I know him, he's hard. And then I looked at him for a moment, and then the guy looked over, hard guy looked over, and he was like, all right, to the guy who I know. And I just kind of nodded like this. And then the guy who I know went, here. He was looking at you funny then. And I went, like, you just told me he's the hardest guy ever. And then he went, and laughed and went in. And I went, what was that? What were you doing? He was like, oh, he knows you're joking. Then at the dinner time, I'm like playing fucking The Matrix with my pals in the playground, like, Neo! And everyone's going, you're Trinity. And I'm like, I'm not Trinity. I'm Morpheus. And they're like, nah, Dan's Morpheus. And I'm like, I'm Morpheus. Or I'm at least Neo. And like, nah, Pete's Neo. I'm like, who am I? They're like, Trinity. Actually, no, you're not like this. You're her. What's her name? Blonde one. That's who you are. They made me that. Bring. Remember the bell? Bring. Like, there's Hunchback of Husker Fletcher was banging that bell. School, the break was over. Just as the like a bad film. Just as by the way, my phone stopped filming now, so just be wary. Just as that's happening, as the bell rings, the playground clears, right, and the hard guy walks towards me, and I swear to God, with two henchmen on either side of him, like the guys off Harry Potter who followed Draco. He wasn't Draco Malfoy at all. He was more like Nate Diaz, right? But his henchmen were like Boyle and Goyle and whatever they're called in Harry Potter. the ones that get turned into rats or something. What is it? I really don't. People who like Harry Potter now are like, what are you? You're butchering it. You're butchering my Potter. Stop butchering my pottery. So they came out, and then he went, you were looking at me funny, and I went, oh, no, he was joking, and before I had a chance to finish the sentence, he grabbed me and nutted me in the nose, blood everywhere, just for that. So that's what you get if you look at someone wrong. That's what happened. But then, go back to Urbis, this guy's just got his head kicked in, and he's on the floor, getting his head continually kicked in, and I jump up going, yo, right now, he's done. I'm shouting, he's done. I think that's good. I'm like, he's done. I sound like a guy who fights, and I know when it's done, all right? You fight. You fighting over there? I fight too, and I know when a fight is done. It's when the school bell goes. The hunchback of... bad callback. The callback of Notre Dame. And I'm shouting that. He's done. No, none of the people. In my head, I'm like, yeah, I'll tell him. He'll listen to me. I think that something is happening. And then a couple of guys run over and grab him off. And I was like, oh, I had nothing to do with this all along. I was only a spectator. This might as well have been on TV, and I'm shouting at the TV. That's how much I participated in this. And they pull him off, and the guy's going, yeah, blah, 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 blah. You shouldn't have done that. Blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't have done this. And I was like, Jesus, did you just look at him? So then he walks away for a moment, and then the guy... Stephen Hawking, when he's young, his glasses are askew. He's got blood that is not only coming out of his nose, but it's across his face like this. And suddenly, he looks like... Who does he look like suddenly? Who's a hard guy in the films, but he has glasses? He suddenly looks like one of the Cray twins. No, not that hard. He suddenly looks like not a hard guy. No, he looks more like, out of all his friends, out of all his emo-ish, I don't know if that's the word anymore, scene kid, that was a term they used to use, mosher, sweaty, goth friends, he's like the chavvy one that they hang out with. He's not cool enough for the chavvy guys, the utes, the roadmen, so he's the chav of the smelly, horrible, sweaty moshers. He's the chav of them. And then he's like, the blood's everywhere, and he's going, here, boys, why did none of you have my back then, boys? Why do you not? And I was going, yeah. Why did none of his boys have his back? What was all that about? Jesus, not even one went over. But I was like, well, no. I can't imagine a scenario where one of my mates is getting his head kicked in. And I at least wouldn't do something at the point of he's getting his head kicked in while he's down. I'd at least say, he's done. I'd at least say that at the most. And he'd be able to hear me that time because I was closer. But none of these guys did it. They're all sweaty, horrible moshers. And he was shouting at him. And he's shouting at him and he's saying all this. And then Ute Roadman comes over and he starts going, listen, bro, we're square, all right? We're sweet now. We're sweet. And he's like, listen. And he's going, and then he goes, listen, you broke my ring. You broke my 300-pound ring with your face when I punched it. When your face made contact with my ring on my fist here, it broke it. And it was 300 quid, and I'm going to let you off. We're square. If you hadn't have bought my ring, then we would have been really sweet. I would have owed you because I just did your head in. But I did your head in, and you broke my ring as well. So now I kind of should do your head in again with the other hand, which doesn't have a ring on it, or at least my leg. And I've only got a pinky ring on that one under my Nike TNs. And I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let you off because I'm a nice guy like that. When you're lying down on the floor and you're already done and I keep kicking you in the head, that's what kind of nice guy I am. I'll keep going till they stop me. That's what he said, right? He didn't say any of that part, but he was going mad about the ring. And then it almost kicks off a few more times. And then his guy, the Ute, has a henchman as well. He's like a guy and he's got his hands in his pants. And even though a quite intense interaction is going on, he's got both hands in his pants whilst bargaining, like negotiating with the guy to like back off with his hands in his pants, just playing with his dick. He's like almost like he's enjoying it. And then as the big gang of smelly moshers walk away, some other guy, remember that guy who was like a geography teacher or something, who was like maybe like 33 or something like that. What part did he have in it? Oh, that was it. He was like checking if he's all right. And as they're walking away, the young Stephen Hawking, but the grew up on a council estate version now, post-fight, he's that version. He starts kicking off with another guy in his friend group as this almost like everyone on Urbis can see that I just got my head kicked in, including those two guys over there, those two potheads watching me, and that one who thinks he had something to do with it when he was shouting he's done, but he had nothing to do with it. So I'm going to kick my mate's head in. So he goes for him, and then geography teacher guy grabs him, and he goes like, "Leave it, all right, it's not worth it. It's not worth it, all right? Leave it." And he's like, his boots that he's wearing on the outside of his jeans, because you know he's a tosser. He's got like boots that go on over his jeans. He's tucked his jeans into his boots, this guy. He splits it up. They walk, and then one point he comes back, and then the Ute runs over like, what, you want more? And he's like, the geography teacher's like, he's looking for his glasses. Finds his glasses, they leave. And then me and Nick are walking the same direction as the geography teacher, split up the fight guy. And I was thinking, this guy is putting this on his Facebook status. He's doing an Instagram story, like, he's going to throw some water on his face as if he's been sweating. He's going to be like, good deed of the day. Let me tell you what just happened. And he's talking about it, and he's going to be telling that story for months. And I'm pretty sure when I said that behind him, 2 feet behind him, he's going to be telling this story for months. He might have heard me. But he was also, didn't he keep turning back because he could see that we were there? As if to say, like, he wanted us to go like, wait, mate, what you did then was great. But we weren't giving it to him because it wasn't great. Fuck you, geography teacher. And that's what living in Manchester's like. People get their head kicked in right in front of you. And then you walk around the rest of the day, wherever you sit down, someone shouts and you go, is more Utes fighting? And you feel on edge. But that's what the city's like. Downstairs, there's 2 bars. Like I said, you hear the clowns shouting all the time. But it is pretty fun, you know. I have to say that. It's always entertaining. And the fact that comedy is happening again, and I've done 2 gigs now. What time are we on, Nick? Do you know? A bunch of time. Okay, we're on 49 minutes. We're closing it up. 10 more minutes-ish. Yeah? You're buzzing? His silence means that he's buzzing. Whenever you ask someone how they're feeling and they don't answer, that usually means they're having a great time. Especially when they've got their head in their hands like this. That's like, really proves you're having a good time to me. But walking around the city, being amongst all the crazy people, is good comedy fodder. And I did 2 gigs recently. I did the first one and fluffed I don't know what it was. Before we were going out, I proper prepared. Didn't take up any notes like I used to do often in the past or have things written in my hand. Often as like if I forget, I'll have to look at my hand. But what ended up happening was I was up there and I'd say the joke and then I'd rely on the little note on my hand. And because I'd gotten so used to that, if I'd sweated it off because 3 of the jokes didn't work, and I'm just flop sweat, and I look at my hand and it's all smudged, I go like, ah, and I should really rely on my mind instead of my hand, the writing on my hand, or in a notebook or whatever. And I was like, right, I'm fully prepared. I know what jokes come after the other. Like, painting is the first keyword I had in my head. Dating is the second keyword I had in my head. Drinking. You know, I have keywords, and I got to the first joke, did it, completely forgot, and I had to like joke about the fact that I'd forgotten already, blah blah blah, kind of got a laugh, went in the next bit, and then the best bit that I did, which is a new bit, and I was like, oh okay, I thought this was good, and it did get a big laugh, so this is a good new bit that I've got, and it's the one that I laughed the most at when I thought of it and said it in conversation, and had the idea, oh that's a joke, that's a bit there, that got a good laugh, but there was certain bits that I fluffed, and then as I got off stage, I realised that I was well nervous, but I didn't acknowledge that I was nervous beforehand. If I would have just gone, oh, I'm feeling a bit nervous, if someone would have gone, how are you feeling about it? And I would have gone like, well, actually I'm a little apprehensive or whatever. But someone probably did do that, but I was just probably like, nah, I'm buzzing, I can't wait. And then as I'm walking up stage, I was like, gulp. Because it had been like 8 months, maybe more than that. What's October? How far is that away? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. Is that what I said? Okay, I farted, but I didn't do it into the mic this time. Anyway, so I did that gig, and it went all right. I was pretty happy with that being the first one, because it wasn't a bomb, but it also wasn't like where I want it to be. But I know that a lot of the stuff that I'm trying needs work and stuff, and some stuff that I've dropped, I'm like, it's not going to work that. And then I did one on Thursday, and that one went okay as well. And I used some older stuff to see if it still holds up and all that stuff, and it did work all right. But I remember, I don't know, there's something off. And when I listened to the recording back, it sounded like I was rushing I was going way too fast. And I was also kind of doing an impression of, I was kind of like taking the piss out of my own jokes with the way I was delivering them. As if I'm like, as I say the punchline, I'm like, egg salad, it's supposed to be a joke, that, instead of just being like, egg salad. I always say eggs whenever I try and pretend that I'm doing a joke. I don't know what it is. Maybe I need some jokes about eggs. Maybe that's what I'm crying out for, to be the egg man. So that gig went okay, pretty good. But then I've got Comedy Vault is back. By the time this is out, perhaps I'll put it out on Sunday, the day before Comedy Vault starts back. Perhaps it'll be out the day after Comedy Vault has been on. But it's on Monday, the 28th, okay? And it's at a bar called Fierce Beer. And I've gotten, for the first night, I don't know what the plans are going to be after this night. It's like a trial night. But I've got on some great acts, and I've got a good MC, and I'm on there as well. And I always look at the lineups that I'm on, that I curate myself, and I insert myself into them, and I go, I don't deserve to be on that lineup, but so hopefully that will make me up my game. Knowing that the pressure of there being loads of other good comedians on there, I'm hoping that the material that I take into it will be, I'll have really made sure I've worked on it, and I have been working on it, so hopefully that will go well. And that's going to happen, and then perhaps there'll be another venue, maybe Bar 21 will come back. They said that they will do, but they've not been in touch for a while, and it's changed management. But hopefully that will happen. And we're back to doing comedy in that, and I'm going to make sure, I think I released one last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. But I'm going to try and be more consistent with these podcasts and get some guests on. I've already got people who do want to do it, but I've not been able to really figure out much of a time. Okay, I've been working a lot. So we're going to, things are on the up. Got a full-time job, got a cool flat. Comedy's back. And make sure you kiss your nan, dad. Ban the nipple too. Don't want to see that. Stop interspecies breeding. Sick of it. I completely put my foot down and said, don't breed between species. Go fully bent for whatever you feel passionate about in life. For if you like Star Trek, be fully bent for Star Trek. All right. So I think that I'm warmed up now. I think I'm warmed up. So can we start recording now? I'll start. I think that's enough, like an hour of warm-up. Nick?
I'd actually kill myself.
Say that again. Sorry, sir?
I'd kill myself.
Do it.